Good evening. Calling to order the regular meeting of the El Segundo City Council, Tuesday, September 1st. Please rise. Scott Lambert from the Hilltop Community Church of Christ will give the invocation, and Councilmember Atkinson will lead us in the pledge.
Let's all bow together. God, look down tonight and bless the proceedings here in this place. As this council looks over this city, we know you look over us. God, we ask you to, in your wisdom, to look down and be here tonight. God, thank you for the 1st of September. It's a reminder of kind of the new rhythm of life, the new seasons of life. Our kids are back in school. And God, we're thankful for the education and the schools of this great town. I've got kids that graduated from here and still in school, and I'm thankful personally. Thank you for the rhythm of the fall, God. I pray that our council and the employees of our city got some rejuvenation and rest this summer so that they can continue to bring their best energies to governing and to shepherding and stewarding the resources of this great city. Thank you for the summertime. And as we head into the last third of the year, Father, help us to appreciate the rhythms of life. Again, we ask you to be here and on everybody's heart tonight as they come and bring and listen and bring and participate in the democracy that we cherish and that we're thankful for, God. Thank you so much. Again, we ask your presence here. Amen.
Please place your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Atkinson.
Here.
Councilmember Dugan.
Here.
Councilmember Fellhauer. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Jacobson. Here. And Mayor Fuentes.
Here. Thank you. Now is the time for public communication for items related to city business only. 5 minutes per person, 30 minutes total.
Good evening. My name is Brittany. I am the Executive Director of the Muscular Dystrophy Association, Los Angeles office, and I'm here on behalf tonight of MDA and the El Segundo firefighters to thank the city for once again supporting the 6th biannual Firefighter Fill the Boot for MDA. The El Segundo firefighters have historically raised $82,000 to date in the fight against muscle disease. And so our upcoming dates for this year, for 2015, are September 14th, September 18th, and September 22nd from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. The El Segundo firefighters will be collecting donations for MDA at the intersections of El Segundo Boulevard and Sepulveda and Grand. And so I just want to thank your support and also acknowledge the gracious firefighters, who donate their time off duty to collecting donations for MDA. I can tell you that the IAFF, the International Association of Firefighters, is the Muscular Dystrophy Association's largest and longest standing sponsor. And historically, throughout the 60-year partnership that we've had with firefighters, we've been able to raise $558 million in the fight against ALS, muscular dystrophy, and other types of muscle disease. So thank you again for your continued support. Our goal for this year is to raise $18,000 to bring the El Segundo firefighters' historical total to $100,000. And we couldn't do it without your support, and of course, without the support of the firefighters and the city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. See no other public communications?
No.
Council, thanks for hearing me tonight. My name is Nate Chittick, 830 Sheldon Street here in El Segundo. Been a resident for 11 years now. Please forgive my attire. I just came from my AYSO U8 girls soccer team. It's the highlight of my week. Okay. Last week, I sent out the team rules to all the parents, and I just want to review them really quickly. And I said I'd have a test today of all the rules. The girls failed miserably, but we're going to work on this. Okay, rule number 1, have fun. Rule number 2, have respect for self and others. Rule number 3, play with excitement. Rule number 4, pay attention. Those are the 4 rules. You can't make a mistake on my team unless you violate one of those rules, right? And I share this as important. Sports is just a reason for us to get together and experience ourselves, and get to know our strengths, get to know what makes us work well with other people. If you think about this list, you could apply it to people you work with. If they show up to work and they're having fun, they're having respect for others, they're here with excitement, they pay attention, these are exactly people you want to work with, right? So I sent out that set of rules last week, and then on Monday, I get this letter, the 2 letters that were brought to my attention. I can't believe. They're from Stephen A. Filarski. He's, I guess, somebody that we've hired to represent us in this city. And I want to take the time publicly to read these because it floored me. This is to, I guess he's worked with other cities before. This is to the Rio Alto Fire Department. He's congratulating a Mr. Delpha, and he says, "Congratulations, you're now in the history books. You will be able to read about it internally from hell. Not so sincerely, Stephen A. Filarski." And then the next day, both of these letters are on company letterhead. And then the very next day, he writes, apparently to the attorney of the Rio Alto Firefighters Association, "Dear Mr. Adams, I hope that by now you have read the Supreme Court's unanimous decision in this case. You personally are quoted directly. I thank you for your quotable quotes, as I believe your bombastic rhetoric helped guide and coalesce the Supreme Court in its decision. My only regret is that the expletive, quoted, was not identified by name. I will do my very best to ensure that you get the notoriety you deserve. In the meantime, you, Della, and the Rio Alto Firefighters Association can simply go to hell." This is an attorney that's hired by us, to represent this city, to negotiate with the city employees, as I understand. He sent the letter twice, back-to-back days. He sent it to a firefighters association, which we all know he knew that would become public, and I would guess he's proud of speaking this way. My question is this somebody that we want representing us in our city? Is this somebody that would survive on my 7-year-old girls' soccer team? I don't think that he would. I want to speak on behalf of many, many good people that live in this city of ours, and we work tirelessly. We serve on boards, we coach. What are we doing this? To help our kids grow up to what? Do I care if my girls become soccer players professionally? I care that they become leaders. I care that they become the next Mayor Fuentes or the next Marie Philhauer, who not only serve here, but you serve in the city of LA helping people. That's why I coach. Would my girls be okay with the way that this guy is talking to city employees around this country? It may be okay in Rio Alto. It's not okay here in El Segundo. We don't talk to each other this way. That's why we have a community here that we all want to be a part of. I hope my girls grow up. I hope they become just like you guys. And when they do, when they climb that mountaintop and they get a chance, I hope they remember rule number 2, have respect for self and others. And I hope they do the right thing. This is our town. We need to respect everybody. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. My name is Gregorio Daniel with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Local 911. And as everyone in the room may be aware, we are currently in negotiations with the city. And over the years, not just the Teamsters, but every bargaining unit here in the city has made a number of concessions. We made a number of concessions when the city was facing economic turmoil. and apparently the city is still continuing to seek concessions when we have a balanced budget. So bottom line is we're asking that you guys come to the table and be fair.
See no more public communications, closed. Council comments?
Are we allowed to comment on anything that has to do with the letters or no?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, the council is allowed to briefly respond to comments made at the dais. So if that's what you wish to do, you may.
I'll just say that I recently saw those letters myself, and I was very disappointed in them. But at the same time, the person that we hired, Steve Filarski, has not done anything like that with our unions that I'm aware of. He's done what the council's asked him to do, and that's all I think I'm allowed to say.
Comments? Thank you. Procedural motions. Consideration of a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda by title only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Item number 1, continued item C1 from August 18, 2015 City Council meeting, rescission of Brown Act commitment in accordance with Government Code 54960.2E, consideration and possible action to rescind the commitment made by the City Council on November 5, 2013, not to hold further closed session meetings regarding real property negotiations with regard to ES Center Cal LLC's proposal to enter into a due diligence and ground lease agreement to lease the driving range portion of the Lakes Golf Course from the city for the purpose of developing a Topgolf facility. Fiscal impact unknown, depends on whether legal proceedings are commenced. And item 2, concurrently, consideration and possible action regarding receiving an update with respect to the city's negotiations with CenterCal and Topgolf regarding the draft due diligence lease agreement that provides for the leasing of the driving range at the Lakes Golf Course to CenterCal and Topgolf for purposes of operating a Topgolf facility and the reconstruction of the golf course. Fiscal impact none. City Manager?
Members of the council, the city attorney and I had a very constructive conversation last Friday. Any better?
You're fuzzy.
The city attorney and I had a very constructive conversation last Friday with CenterCal and Topgolf. We're down to just a couple of issues. We're going to be exchanging documents over the next couple of days, and we hope to finalize a draft, prepare a staff report, and bring this before council. So our recommendation tonight is that you continue this to your next item, or your next meeting, rather.
Thank you. So we need a motion to continue?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll move to continue.
We had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Consent agenda. Any pulls? Seeing no pulls, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. No new business. Reports, City Manager, City Attorney. City Clerk, you have an item under your name.
Consideration and possible action relating to state legislation, Assembly Bill 254 and Senate Bill 415 regarding local election dates. So I'm sure you guys want to know what this means to us, correct?
Yes, please.
All right, so Assembly Bill 254 basically will eliminate your March and April elections. Your Senate Bill 415 would then move the elections to November. We're even, so we could start as early as 2018, possibly to 2022. If they pass, that's what it does. Of course, this is ultimately up to the council to decide whether you'd like to oppose it or not. We just like to bring it to your attention. Coming from the clerk's office, our major concern is the loss of control over our own elections. That's kind of the bottom line. Candidates like to come in and see who's done their vote by mails. We wouldn't be able to offer that anymore because it would all be done through the county. Typically, we know our election returns that evening of the election. It's a possibility we wouldn't know till the following morning, early morning, say 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. The other item that's kind of concern is that we like to announce our elections at the meeting, the 7 days later. With the county, you could take up to 28 days or more, which means you could conceivably not know if it starts in November, you wouldn't, or the elections are in November, you wouldn't know until December who's taking office. And the other thing is, it's like on your ballot, we'll be at the end of a ballot. So we're not priority anymore like we are if we do our own. That's our concerns, but you have questions, we'll answer them for you. Or.
I don't have any questions. This is another example of state government trying to take away local control. It's a more costly means of holding elections, and it's less responsive to our local citizens. So I fully support the letter that's being suggested to be sent.
Yes, I agree with Councilmember Fellhauer. I think everyone knows how I feel about big government and trying to take control away from local government, which is where everybody can really have an impact. Our city clerk's office does a great job. Everybody who deals with you and Mona and Cheryl and Lily and Kathy before had nothing but wonderful things to say. You're so responsive and helpful, and if you start to lump elections in addition to what the city clerk said, you start really getting uninformed voters showing up. The people who show up to our elections pay attention. They know what's going on. They're voting for certain things. They're not just going because there's larger elections. So I fully support this.
Yeah, it's a whole different mindset between people that are interested in the local government, local interests, and in a local election than somebody that is pulled out because of the talk of a presidential election or governor's race. And by the time they would get down to the end of the ballot, if they even fill it in, it's lost. I would rather have less people informed voters rather than going to the polls because they've been shamed into it and not knowing what's going on. The ballots are very, very long in the November election, and have informed voters is what I feel is the most important thing. Not the number of people that turn out, but being informed is the important thing.
I would argue that it'd be nice if more people voted in our local elections, but I agree with you.
Well, I'd love to have more informed voters at the local too, but we are the most, I think the voters in the local election are the most informed
Absolutely.
Of the election that they're voting in.
The only problem I see with when we have it, several actually, one is voter turnout. And secondly, the reason we have some of that voter turnout is we have kids out of school, spring break. So a lot of parents, if they don't do an absentee ballot, don't vote. So I, for one, would love to see the people that's registered in the city of El Segundo receive an absentee ballot. It's up to them if they still want to go to the polls and vote, but it would give them a dual opportunity if something comes up and they're out of town, not to forget to vote. I don't know the cost factor. Giving that, especially if we're going to stay with April in this case, I think it's something we should look at. That everyone then can't, gee, I didn't know about it. Oh, I couldn't get there. So I think a lot of it is just because we get busy in our lives and the time passes and all of a sudden it's a day late. So I believe the absentee vote, which we have a very good representation in this city, that we should, anyone that is registered in our city that lives here, that votes here, should receive that. Then it's up to them to fill it in, send it in, or still go stand in line. So I'm behind keeping it as is, but I think that's something we should add to our city since we are El Segundo. We do things different.
We make it very easy for the
I would
absentee.
be happy to know that spring break and the elections are not in the same week this coming up.
That,
Well, people go before and after. I'm just saying that sometimes that if we can remind people, we all know that we get that little thing on the fridge and you walk, oh, or you leave the thing by the front door and you get to work, oh, dude, it's still sitting at the front door. So it's just another reminder to help us how important it is to vote. Very few countries have that right.
well, it's good to hear that the election is not the same week as spring break this year, but I don't agree with you, Councilmember Atkinson. I think we have such a privilege in our country to vote that people should take, the minimum effort to either go vote or to apply for a vote by mail. Again, sending them to everybody is the government telling you what to do. And like you said, there are a lot of countries in this world who don't have the privilege of voting, or women don't have the privilege of voting. People die for the privilege to vote. So I think people can, apply for a vote by mail. You can be on permanent vote by mail.
Yes.
And we have well over 50% vote by mail. So,
Let's get 100.
So,
no, I want to go to the poll.
All right, 99 then.
Haven't missed an election yet, and they've all been, except for one, at the poll.
We have a great system that seems to work for us. I'm not in favor of changing it, so I support.
so may I have a motion?
I'll move.
Okay,
I'll second.
so we are a motion and a second to oppose the bills and direct staff to send the proposed letter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 5-0. Thank you, City Clerk, for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
City Treasurer is not here this evening, but she was with us last night at Strategic Planning. Reports from City Council members. Councilmember Fellhauer.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Atkinson.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Dugan.
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem Jacobson.
Nothing?
And I have nothing, so we'll go back to public communications related to city business only. 5 minutes per person.
My name is Jack Axelrod. I'm a resident of 15 years, 317B Richmond Street. Caught me by surprise. I didn't expect to get to public communication so quickly. I'm still in disagreement with having that invocation by some delusional local religious individual leading us in an invocation to some non-existent entity. I also still opposed to the loyalty oath. I think both those things, the invocation and the loyalty oath, are ways of getting the community to conform, but not to think, but only to conform. Not only to conform, but largely to conform. It was the mayor just now who spoke of the privilege to vote. There was an argument today on radio I heard that I thought was pretty good. And it was an argument between the difference between the privilege of voting or the right to vote. I found that very interesting. The United States is not a signatory to bans on cluster weapons or on landmines. And yet, we're in this community. Our community doesn't stop at Sepulveda Boulevard or Imperial Highway. Our community is the planet itself, and we have to start, we don't have to do anything. It would be well if we began to think of the community as that which extends to the limits of the globe itself. Not long ago, well, not long ago, 36, maybe 30, 40 million years ago, we were living in caves, and each cave dweller was concerned and in fear of the cave dwellers in the next over the mountain. And we still live that way. We've evolved very little in the last 30 or 40 million years, it seems to me. I also, with Councilman Jacobson, I like to attend the poll. I do attend every election. I go to the poll. Polling station. It would be well for us to remember that not too far under our feet are the bones of the indigenous peoples that lived here before us, who were killed because of the ministrations of the Franciscan monks who moved into this territory. I don't know, it's just well for us to remember that under our feet right now are those bones. People who were chased out or otherwise killed for ignoble reasons. It seems to me that we, in this community of El Segundo, like the rest of the United States and the rest of the countries around the world, worship not so much an entity living somewhere in the sky, but we worship mammon, and we pray at the altar of capitalism. And it would be well for us to consider other means of organizing our country, organizing the government. And that doesn't do it for me. Wait, how much time have I got, please? A minute? All right, I quit. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for your undying attempts to have the city of El Segundo be a terrific place, because sometimes it actually is. Not all the time, but sometimes it is. But we are also a city of war profiteers and polluters. It seems we ought to get rid of, there ought to be a ban against any corporation over there, I'm pointing over on the other side of the pulpit, who is making money, making munitions, selling them to foreign countries. Thank you very much for your attention. Be well, stay well. Be free of worry, be free of anxiety.
Seeing no other public communication, we'll close it. Oh, opening public communication.
I'm a registrar. I'm a precinct walker. I'm one of the people that in 1920 finally got the vote, thanks to courageous men and women who fought to get us the right and privilege. I don't drive, but I've read the vehicle code, and it says it's a privilege to drive. Most of us think it's a right to battle our way to places. That may be so. But it's a right and a privilege to vote because good people fought overseas and here and in the Civil War and in other wars, and courageously were starved in jails and force-fed. I won't go through that. I wrote a play about it. You don't need to hear it. It's just my feeling that if you want to go to the polls, we're delighted to see you there. It shows participation. If you want to register to vote and have it mailed in, and I do that so that I can poll check, do that. The post office would love to see you. They have forms. The public library would love to see you. They have forms. If you run into me on the street, I have forms. Everywhere. It's not Christmas tonight. I know the song. But everywhere, this gentleman is right about some things. And I will say one of the things he's right about, and one of the things you're right about, is that many places overseas, they are being killed on the way to the polls. We need to be grateful that we can vote. We need to be grateful to those who fought for us to vote. And every time you vote by mail or go to the polls, be proud because you're establishing the right for future generations. Hang in there, America. And despite whatever you think about whatever entity is out there that may or may not guide and guard us, God bless America. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Could you identify yourself, please, Mrs. Wilson?
If you can remember my name, and that takes a lot of doing, sometimes I'm not sure. Nobody's sure if they're widowed or widowered. Just think of me as your local precinct walker, and I've lived in town over 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll close public communications. Any council comments? Okay. Well, with that, we are adjourned.